Stop spiraling in 5 minutes. You probably know this feeling. Something small happens, but your mind reacts like it is much bigger than it really is. A message feels serious, one mistake feels embarrassing, and suddenly it seems like everything needs to be fixed right now. When that happens, most people try to solve the problem immediately by thinking harder. But once stress gets high enough, thinking harder usually does not help very much. It just makes the whole thing feel more intense. So this episode is not really about solving your whole problem in 5 minutes. It is about doing something more useful first. If you can lower the stress response a little, your mind usually becomes clearer and the situation starts looking more manageable. LifeBug 0.4. Stress makes everything feel worse than it is. When you are stressed, the problem itself is only part of what you are dealing with. The other part is the stress response happening around it. That matters because stress changes the way you interpret things. It becomes easier to assume the worst, harder to think flexibly, and much harder to tell the difference between something that is uncomfortable and something that is actually dangerous. This is also why spiraling feels so convincing. In the moment, it does not feel like you are overreacting. It feels like you are finally understanding how bad things really are. But a lot of the time, what is actually happening is simpler than that. Your body is in a high alert state, and your mind is trying to explain that feeling by making the situation seem bigger. So the first mistake is usually trying to argue with the stress using more stress. You keep thinking, keep analyzing, keep replaying, and the mind just gets louder. What helps more is bringing the whole system down a little first. Once that happens, your judgment usually improves on its own. LifePatch 0.41. Come back to the body first. If you feel yourself spiraling, the easiest place to begin is with the body, not with more thoughts. That does not mean the problem is imaginary. It just means your body is currently making the problem feel harder to handle than it probably is. So before you try to solve anything, do something simple that tells your system you are here, in the room, and not in immediate danger. Put both feet on the floor, notice the chair under you, relax your shoulders a little, unclench your jaw, look around and name a few things you can actually see. Slow your breathing just enough that it stops feeling rushed. You do not need to feel completely calm for this to work. You just need to feel a little less carried away by your own momentum. LifePatch 0.42. Make the problem smaller than the panic. Once you are a little more grounded, the next step is to stop treating the whole situation like one giant block. Stress tends to make everything feel global. Instead of one awkward conversation, it feels like your whole relationship is in trouble. Instead of one unfinished task, it feels like your life is falling apart. That is why it helps to shrink the problem back down to its real size. A simple way to do that is to ask yourself one question. What is the next actual step? Not the full solution, not the big life answer, just the next real step. Maybe it is sending one message. Maybe it is writing down the facts. Maybe it is stepping outside for 5 minutes before replying to anyone. Maybe it is admitting that the problem is real, but not urgent enough to deserve panic. That question helps because the mind handles specifics much better than vague fear. A clear next step gives you something solid to stand on. LifePatch 0.43. Use a 5-minute reset instead of a 50-minute spiral. The last patch is about having something ready before stress shows up. A lot of people know they should calm down, but in the moment they have no structure, so they either keep overthinking or reach for the nearest distraction. That is why a short reset routine helps so much. You are not trying to invent the perfect method while stressed. You are just following something simple that already works for you. Your version can be basic. Sit down, breathe more slowly for a minute, ground yourself. Ask what the real problem is, pick one next step. That is enough. The point is not to become perfectly calm in 5 minutes. The point is to stop the next 5 minutes from turning into the next 50. Short grounding and relaxation routines help because they are simple, repeatable, and much easier to use in real life when stress is already high. Closing. Calm first, then think. That is really the whole idea. When stress gets high, your mind becomes less reliable, so trying to solve everything immediately usually makes the situation feel worse. What helps more is calming the system first, getting back into the present, and then dealing with the problem at its real size. Come back to the body first. Make the problem smaller than the panic. Use a short reset instead of a long spiral. None of this is dramatic, and that is probably why it works. You're not trying to become fearless. You're just trying to become steady enough to think clearly again. And once that happens, a lot of problems stop looking impossible. They just start looking like problems you can handle one step at a time.